What are we gonna do when we get back?
What are we gonna do when we get back?
I'll take a shower and hit the rack.
I'll take a shower and hit the rack.
Welcome to Charlie Mike. If you're a combat veteran with an entrepreneurial bug and want to know what highly successful combat veteranpreneurs are doing to transform their sacrifice and experience to create their visual reality, then this is dedicated to your inspiring and fulfilling future. And now your host, Dwayne Paro.
No way, gotta run, feet, lots of fun.
Invest in Yourself ebook is my free gift to you for listening to the show and becoming part of the CO Nation. To receive your free gift, please go to landmarklifecoaching.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode. There are so many veterans with the core strengths to become successful entrepreneurs and continue to make a huge positive impact on our country. Here we highlight the amazing successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Combat veterans, for the purpose of this show, are soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who have served the United States in wars, campaigns, and in theater, on foreign soil, or hostile waters. Our guest today is Scott Tucker. Scott is a former U.S. Army officer and author of the best-selling book, From Deployment to Dollars. A graduate of West Point, he went on to serve as an executive officer and platoon leader for U.S. forces in Iraq and Germany. Scott was eventually promoted to Strategic Information Management posts, where he gained expertise in decision-making processes and development of enhanced organizational learning and collaboration methods. During his time in the military and following his transition, Scott served as a financial planner for fellow U.S. military. Since that time, Scott's mission has changed, and Transition 2.0 came into being. He purposes to not just help military personnel with their financial goals, but help set them on a course to build a post-military, meaningful life they can be proud of the whole time they're living it. As the founder and CEO of Be Financially Fit and the author of From Deployment to Dollars, Scott combines realistic perspective, financial expertise, and life experience to help transitioning military prepare both financially and personally for the transition back to civilian life. Scott resides in San Diego, not only for its beautiful weather and multitude of outdoor sports and activities, but also to stay closely connected to the military. All right, Scott, well, welcome to the show, and thank you for being a guest.
No, you bet, Dwayne. I really appreciate it. Excited to be on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you tell our loyal listeners all about your journey from a veteran to a successful entrepreneur. But before we get into your entrepreneurial experience, can you give our audience an overview of your military experience?
Yeah, you bet. I got started, like you said, I went to West Point, and it was my senior year that 9/11 happened, and we know that anniversary was just a couple days ago. And game kind of changed for all of us at the moment, because we thought at the time there wasn't going to be any more major wars. I mean, Bosnia was the biggest, Kosovo was the biggest thing going on. So, not even a year and a half later, we find ourselves getting ready for deployment. I was originally stationed in Germany, did deployment for OIF 2 in 2004, and then came back, and I had been short range air defense, the Stinger missiles, and they just disbanded that weapon system for a while. And so we all got scattered to the winds, and I got to do a really cool job as a follow-up from that deployment, working with the 52nd Fighter Wing in Spangdahlem, Germany, which is working with a bunch of F-16 and A-10 pilots, teaching them how to work with our Army guys on the ground. So to see the other side of that picture, see the joint commands working together was really cool. Really changed my appreciation for the Air Force. I didn't make those jokes anymore that people tend to do, because Air Force, gosh, they don't need to run 2 miles and play in the mud. They're great behind computers, and thank God they're there. And after that, ended up at headquarters UCOM in Stuttgart. Did a little knowledge management stuff, kind of forward thinking at the time, back in 2007, when the concept of knowledge management, we spent most of our time just explaining that. Now it's everywhere when you look at social media, and especially how it affects the world of entrepreneurs now. It really is all about knowledge management if you think about it. And so lucky to have done that. But I I got out there in Germany. I was dating an opera singer at the time, and there was no opera singing at Fort Riley, Kansas. So figured I'll just stay in Germany. It seemed like a great experience of life, and it was for sure. But I was very unintentional with my transition, and that kind of led me on my path. But there's the short of the Army career.
Yeah, awesome. It's always a great honor to be able to interview the individuals that are selected for the the Armed Services Academies, because it's not a large part of the population, to be honest. When you figure the entire military is 1% of the population, those of you that get chosen for the academies is even less. So I know they're all well suited for creating great leaders and positioning those individuals for great futures. So that's quite an honor to be selected and be able to go through those.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was actually back at West Point a few weeks ago for a big conference, an admissions department conference, and it was really cool to see what are they looking for in new candidates, and it's totally changed in the 20 years since I was applying. And so, to spread the word about how important it is to apply for the academies. A lot of high school kids don't even know about them right now, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, it is, and it's good to hear that they're evolving with what the times need to be able to train people, the individuals going through there properly. So you mentioned that you had transitioned out in Germany, due to your life circumstances at the time. And so did you work a standard job over there, or did you start right into entrepreneurship?
Well, I had thought at the time I was doing entrepreneurship or some form of it, because when you enter financial services, and I guess a lot of people don't quite recognize this, it's not a normal job in the fact that you don't typically get a regular paycheck, and you have to go out there and earn it and get clients. Now, we should be thinking like entrepreneurs in that perspective, but in that industry, and a lot of industries that are kind of sales based or commission based for the most part, you're playing. You still have what seems like bosses and teams, but you're not really on the same side. It's every man for himself, but nobody tells you that. And so, unfortunately, what I was self-employed, and I thought I was being an entrepreneurship, and it took me years to recognize I was acting the wrong way. I had the wrong mindset, and really, I had a job, and I was my own boss, more or less. I could have people, tell me if I was doing something right or wrong, but they didn't. They couldn't fire me per se. I could get fired by my clients. That was the relationship. It's a weird dynamic, and I just think that industry is kind of behind the times, the way things are moving so fast, and it's causing a lot of problems with how, one, the potential for the individual to build a practice and make a decent, sustainable income without risk of the regulators coming down hard at them, because they're changing those rules every day. But also to feel like they can be truly independent and create a practice, a way of serving their clients that is best going to serve them. And I just didn't. I realized way too late that I basically just created a worse job for myself than I ever had in the military.
Yeah, well, that's a great distinction to make, actually, because we haven't had that conversation on the show before. That there is that distinction between being self-employed and being an actual entrepreneur, and so I'm glad you brought that up, because that some people will have similar situations like you talk about, and they'll kind of have that same feeling that, wow, I must be an entrepreneur, but like you said, people still kind of determine their future and where they're going, versus an entrepreneur that is much more independent and has that authority themselves to determine the direction of where they're going to go.
Right, and part of that is being aware. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can't enter into a space where they just don't let you do that. And you can, it just becomes very hard. And what I'm talking about, for instance, is advertising compliance. Like, I couldn't send an email saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm having a birthday party on Friday. Come by." If I were to send that email to more than 25 people, it would have had to go through my compliance department, get approved. That takes a week. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. No, that's a great distinction.
Yeah.
So as you recognize this, what was your kind of thought process to change that dynamic for yourself?
Well, Part of it was circumstance. You know, the personal, when the opera singer didn't like playing around with the Army sports guy anymore. then all of a sudden I was free to be like, oh, I don't need to be in Germany. And so I chose to go back to San Diego, and that was a big wake up call for me. Just one, being back in the States after 11 years I was gone overseas, but to come to San Diego and to start meeting other true entrepreneurs, and to realize, and then of course veteran entrepreneurs, and to realize, oh, there's definitely a way out here. Like we were just kind of haphazardly, doing the typical things that a financial advisor do. You know, sponsor a golf tournament or a 5K, take people to steak dinners, lots of long meetings in your office, trying to compare, mutual funds, and this is why this strategy is better than that one. And I think really what I found when I got to San Diego, I got to spend a lot more time with veterans. I realized those aren't the issues. The problems that veterans are dealing with stem from bigger issues than hey, how did my TSP work over a long period of time? Or hopefully it's going to work for 40 years, and at 65 I'll have a nice big nest egg. And that's when I realized, okay, entrepreneurs solve problems. The issues we're facing in the veteran world, we have 40,000 plus veterans organizations really helping veterans. Yet we still have high statistics of problems, whatever it's divorce or suicide or depression, homelessness, all of them are bad. And so I thought, well, are we just putting Band-Aids on stuff like the pharmaceutical industry? Mm-hmm. Or do we need to go back to the source and reevaluate how we're discussing how money plays into your current military life? And it shouldn't mean going out and buying a brand new Mustang, by the way. But it also doesn't mean just throw your money in TSP because everybody says it's the best thing, or the guy at the cubicle next to you tells you which funds to put it in. Oh God, no, because you're in your 30s, 20s, 30s, maybe 40s when you get out of the military. Mm-hmm. You can't touch a retirement account until 65 or at age 60. So there's a disconnect. And so I'm saying, why aren't we focused on the present, on the right now, and solving the issues we can actually control today? You can't control the stock market. You can't control what taxes are going to be. You can control the value you provide to the world and how you're compensated for it. And so that was kind of me putting those thoughts together, testing it out with a few people, talking with some folks, and thinking, hey, this can't hurt people. This is a new concept. Then okay, I can strive to truly be an entrepreneur and try this new concept and this new idea. And I did hear another thing, just to follow up on that real quick. Recently, I can't remember who said it, but he said, you're not an entrepreneur until you've actually, turned on the spigots and it's really working out. You're striving entrepreneur. So I still put myself in once I quit that old firm, the one I was having issues with the compliance and all that, then I started to really become an entrepreneur. And I'm still in the launch phase to see, hey, is this all going to work? So it's a lot of fun, a lot of stress, but I'm so excited, more excited than I've ever been about, employing and serving others.
Yeah, that's a great point too, Scott. The launch period is much lengthier than, I think most people realize. It's not just, okay, the day we said, we're incorporated and we're moving forward is you're the real deal. It takes right. Time to, people got to know you. They got to know your service. They got to trust your service. They got to really see that you are a long-term player in the market per se.
And that's hard in people in our industry because in mortgage or real estate or finance, it's, hey, get a client right now. Oh, you're interested? And it's move. And I had to consciously take a step back. And I really did this for 2 years. I went to San Diego. I didn't pick up any new clients. Nobody knew that. Everybody thought I was out there, but I just couldn't with integrity serve them properly until I finally got away and was able to create my own 100% way of helping others, or at least how I'm meant to serve others. And it won't be everybody. And that's the cool thing, is finally realizing, oh, I don't have to try to convince people and then have every morning wake up scared that somebody's going to be complaining about the stock market going down.
Right. Yeah, I mean that is a very volatile market when in any aspect when it comes to finances, and I'm sure you find it's probably a very uneducated area as well. Most people don't know beyond their basic finances how they should properly be handling their money so that they can create a greater future than they would just by kind of stumbling through it.
Right, and that's the weirdest thing is we don't know anything, and how do we not know anything? You can find everything out in 5 minutes. Like I was just talking to my mom. She got a new puppy, and it's crazy. I was like, Mom, Google puppy training, and all these amazing videos come up, and it'll teach you in 5 minutes. And so again, given the way they emphasize, financial readiness, again, something about the message must be missing, because why are we still having so many people making poor decisions in the military with their money? And so I aim to change that. Try to find a way to spark awareness, to be realize, like, listen, you can't just hope, like, I hope I get this next promotion so I don't have to worry about transition. Transition's coming, fellas and ladies. It's coming one way or the other. Even if you hit general, right. the only general who's not transitioning is the superintendent at West Point right now, because he's the oldest general in the Army. He's like 63.
Wow.
Yeah. But other than that, he's when he retires, he is retiring. He's not doing any TV pundit stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I tell you, just from what I've noticed, experiences with veterans that have transitioned is, when it just comes to a financial perspective, they're not even knowledgeable about what you take home in the military versus what you would take home once you transition. The differences in the tax structure and what's actually in your pay in the military and what's a benefit versus, when you get out, everything's pay beyond your standard medical and dental type stuff, but you do have to pay for your premiums. Where in the military, you don't really notice those things. You just know, like BAQ, BAS, and all that. It's just there. It's not taxed and things like that. And and then you get your standard check. And I think people end up falling short, thinking that they need less than they do.
It's crazy. Like I try to coach people. Literally, take a look at not just your LES. But take a look at the benefits of a whole. Really try to put a number to every aspect of things that the military is providing for you. And so that can be a financial number, and it's going to end up adding up way higher than what your take-home salary says on your LES.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then at the same time, now the real superpower is to recognize not only that, hey, this is a financial thing I need to replace, but it's a complete mindset shift I need to replace, because we've been so used to saying yes, sir, no, sir, following orders, regulations. It just be, oh, I have a dentist appointment. Okay, go to your dentist appointment. Like that is a place of duty. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. That's what the military is supposed to do, and it absolutely should. It's our own individual responsibilities to wake up, take responsibility for discovering, who am I? What do I want to be? Because what are you once you're not a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine anymore? And if we're one of the tough old Marines I see in San Diego who say once a Marine, always a Marine, like I honor that absolutely. But what else? If my biggest fear was waking up later in life and thinking that the only meaningful thing I had done in life was when I was 25 deployed in Iraq, and that scared me. And I saw too many people, especially at UCOM, all the senior officers, being a young captain there, I was just getting coffee. And just see so many people really just going through the motions, just trying to get that extra promotion. And it was kind of sad and disheartening. And you just saw the fear in these guys who were our leaders, the ones we looked up to, and yet they don't even know what they're going to be doing next. And so maybe we shouldn't be going to them for advice about, should I transition, or how should I transition, or what do you think I'd be good at? Maybe they don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's an equalizer, really. It's right. Doesn't matter what your rank is, you're going to go through those same pains in transition. And so, yeah, that's a great point.
And so you can't. So at the same thing, you can't think you're limited to anything based on your job or rank in the military, because if you were turning wrenches in the military, if you don't want to turn them on the outside, then don't get your skills translated and think that on a resume is therefore gonna equate to something. Right. Every military person's resume looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
All that a resume tells me as an entrepreneur who wants to hire an employee, a military one, typically it's just going to say like, all right, you were honorably discharged, you're clearly competent, but you need to now tell me, and especially in this day and age, how do you brand yourself? So maybe you don't want to get into entrepreneurship, but why not think of yourself as a business of you? You are an income producing entity. So figure out how to market yourself. And rather than just throwing a profile up on LinkedIn with the same, basically it's not a military photo with a short haircut. It's a business suit photo with a short haircut.
Yeah.
But how are you standing? How are you telling someone who's going to give you money for the value you provide what that value is going to be?
Right. Yeah. That is a hard transition mentally for veterans as they transition, because you're so used to talking in technical terms, whether depending on what branch you're in, whether it's your MOS or your AFSC for the Air Force, things like that. You're used to talking in those terms, those very technical terms, and that's just not what you need to do. Like you said, it's the whole branding aspect, and I kind of translate that in things that I coach as to being able to relay the core strengths that you've developed in the military and how that adds value, how you're going to add value to the organization that's interested. And as well as if you're going to become an entrepreneur, how are you going to use those same core strengths to show that the value you will bring as an organization to the space that you're interested in?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And that's what I love about pursuing entrepreneurship, is just never giving up, having a pure faith that I am going to find my meaning and purpose. And maybe it's not my passion. Listen, all passions can't be profitable, but you can find a profitable interest. Mm-hmm. And then once you make it profitable, you'll get really passionate about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Become an expert at it.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. Landmark Life Coaching's vision is to be the nation's premier coaching partner for inspiring and empowering those in transition. They partner with courageous groundbreakers and transitioning veterans to create fulfilling and empowering futures that they desire. They have partnered with various entrepreneurs and transitioning veterans to leverage their core strengths and implement the framework for the future they always dreamed of. Could you or anyone you know benefit from a success partner to bring clarity to your future or their future? If so, please check out landmarklifecoaching.com for more information and charliemikepodcast.com for the Charlie Mike Podcast, showcasing the successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Okay, we are back with Scott Tucker. Just before break, he was giving us an overview of his military experience, how he moved into the entrepreneurial realm, and we talked a brief amount of time about the difference between self-employed and being an actual entrepreneur. And those are some really good distinctions to understand, because it does have an effect on what you actually control and the role that you play. So just before we went to break, Scott was giving us some really good information on the things you should consider as you're transitioning to make sure that you're financially aware of where you are and where you need to be as you make that transition. So Scott, one of the things I like to talk about is, from your military experience, is there some really key things you found you either developed, in your case at West Point while you were, in the academy, or even when you were in the military, off deployed in the military, that you found extremely useful as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to go back to the whole point of West Point. And sorry, didn't mean to use point of it. And what they always said to us there is, what are you going to do now, platoon leader? What are you going to do now, platoon leader? That was the whole mantra. And given the circumstances of the war when it all kicked off and everything, by the time I was a platoon leader and we went down range, the XO above me got fired in the first couple months. And then I got moved up, and all of a sudden I wasn't platoon leader anymore. And I literally just had lunch a few weeks ago with one of my soldiers from that platoon, who I hadn't seen in the 16 years since then. And we were talking a lot about that experience. It just made me appreciate, what is true leadership, the desire to be a leader. I had been missing that. I'm self-employed. I've just been in an office by myself. And to get back into realizing the importance of leadership. Now, leadership in the military is different than it can be as an entrepreneur. Because in the military, you can be a leader by example, but you're still you're just managing. You're still just following the orders and passing them down. They've been set in place for you, and that's fine. But when you get an entrepreneur, you go, I need to really step up and be a leader. I need to be a leader to myself, and then to anybody else that I'm organizing. And then the coolest part about it is you realize, this tribe I'm building around my business concept or idea. Now I'm leading them. I'm changing their lives, and it is separate from taking orders and then passing them down. Like you're kind of creating it. And when you get into the creation mode, then you can lead from there, from your own pure creation. That's the game changer. When you can figure out how to do that, and it's not hard. I mean, it's hard to figure it out, but it's possible for everybody. I firmly believe that, because I thought there was no way it could ever happen to me. I'm just another one of those stories saying, like, I never thought I'd find my unique space. And once you do, you know, dude, it's totally accessible for anybody. You just got to want it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The whole building a tribe, right? Mm-hmm. It is a different way of leadership, and has different, there's different things required, because like you said, when you're in an organization, the mission, the vision, things like that are defined, the focus of where everybody should be going to. But when you're, like you said, building your place in an industry, you want to be able to set yourself apart, and you have to get people that are interested in where you want to take that industry, and or even an aspect of that industry, and mm-hmm. and it's so rewarding when you see that building around you, and it is a clearly different form of leadership, because to me it's more on almost a global scale versus just an organizational scale.
Yeah, and that's the opportunity. Mm-hmm. That's the opportunity that being a veteran in the United States of America, the greatest country in the history of the world, in the internet age, offers each and every one of us. And the more of us that do this, then the better it works for all of us. Mm. That's what's so cool about the proper networking and being true and intentional with how you're meant to serve. I was just thinking about something a second ago, and sorry, I lost my train of thought, but it was more or less like when you, I know what I was gonna say. When it doesn't have to necessarily be your mission. It takes years to figure that out. But the more you can align your service to a mission that you can get behind, like if I were to hire someone to work under me, and they could fully get behind the messaging that I was trying to put out to the world, then I believe that's totally fine until you figure out your own one. And if you don't, if you're like, hey, listen, I'm just on board with this train because I believe in it, rather than just replacing a paycheck because you need the paycheck. And since I had a TSCI clearance, I'll get a little bit higher paycheck and it'll be nice benefits, and I'll just hang out here for 20 more years. So right. It's about finding some sort of mission, because we need to replace it. Like it or not, you got to have more than just a paycheck. Otherwise, you are an at-risk veteran. And I was definitely one of those. I didn't get to the worst ends of it, but I was heading down that road, and I didn't even recognize it until it was almost too late. Sadly, my father passed away suddenly, and luckily that kind of woke me up to be like, oh no, this has got to stop. I've got to get behind this mission. And so, you just got to look for those signs to figure out, hey, what do I align with? What am I meant for?
Yeah, because veterans, that's a good point, because veterans do start to miss. And I'll tell you from my own personal experience, when I transitioned out of the military, I always equate it to that proverbial dog chasing a car, right? Mm. What are you going to do when you catch it? It was like I was always working on this ambition to reach an executive level in an organization. And so I was always chasing that next promotion, chasing that salary increase. And each one was supposed to make me that much happier. But yet I always had this nagging discontent along the path. And, I did reach that pinnacle of reaching an executive position, and I'm supposed to be content, right?
Yeah,
making the most I've ever made, and I got the greatest, supposedly the highest position and best, benefits, and yet there's still that nagging discontent. And for me, after self-reflection, I found it's because I wasn't serving something of greater purpose.
Yeah, and honestly, it was the exact same thing for me. About year 3 as being a self-employed financial planner, I hit, quote unquote success. I was making way more money than I ever made as an Army officer and working way less. But I just, same thing. I looked around and I would sit behind clients and I would do the whole, like, look at this graph and here's how your money's going to be over 40 years. And they just looked at me blank-eyed, and I was like, I'm telling you everything they told me to tell you. And I realized I'm not helping them. I'm just another dentist appointment, honestly. And it was frustrating for me because I was really trying. And then of course, if they get someone chirping in their ear saying, oh, they're just charging you fees because they want to make money. Well, I'm in business. Of course I want to make money. And when you get into that negative cycle, that was where I said, oh, I'm not serving a mission here. I thought I was told I was, but I'm not. And for some people, the financial planning, getting into the numbers, they can do it in a way where it really does help certain people who need it. Mm-hmm. I found most military types and veteran types, they don't need all that detailed whiz-bangy, CFP 50-page financial plan stuff. They need to know, like, listen, save this amount of money, put it here, 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 and then go figure out what you want to do with your life. You don't need all these crazy estate plans until you need it. And when you need it, then go talk to those people who are you have to worry about fees and how much they cost. That's a lawyer level stuff.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. So when I was reading your bio, it says that you're now, your mission has changed, your focus, and, now you're working on, your transition 2.0 aspect. Could you give us a little more kind of information on, what that entails and what some of your milestones coming up are for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And still working on the branding. So would love any feedback from your audience on, I'm thinking military life 2.0, military transition, military money 2.0, something along those lines. But the idea is this 2.0 concept. Like, listen, we're in the Uber age, and I just want to change the conversation for my tribe, the people I'm meant to serve. And typically that means, like, you're not starting from scratch. You've got that itch. There's more out there, and you think you're doing the right things with the money, but you don't want to be like trading stocks in the stock market. You want to figure out, how do I use money and apply it to my transition so I can maximize opportunities? That's the main thing. How do you use money as a tool for you now? And I'm not saying go out there and invest in the next fast food joint that pops up and your buddy wants to open and ask $20,000 for it. No. You need to be very intentional with the money. That's the key, is intentional with your money for your transition, because there's the opportunity to create the life you want. And you can't always, be that soldier. It's just going to end. So the sooner you prepare for it, the transition that's coming, whether it's 6 months out or 20 years out, being intentional with how you are thinking about money and using money to not just further yourself and your lifestyle, but further how you are meant to serve the world in your next mission in life. And so money is still very important. I'm still technically an investment advisor, financial planner, life insurance agent. I mean, I do all that, but I really want to transition what we're talking about into more of the mindset. How do you act like an entrepreneur? Maybe you don't want to be one, but if you're going to show up to a job fair and look like everybody else, what's the point in that? Do you know how to reach out to these people on Twitter, LinkedIn, and let them know who you are beforehand? Is your photo a little bit different? I mean, how do these types of modern tools tied in with the financial aspects of it put you ahead? If you have an opportunity, like I said, in 2017, in the internet age, American veteran with every pat on the back you can get, and a huge network of veterans who want to help you. If you're not taking advantage of that, then that's the conversation we need to change. And so we need to get confidence around the money, because the fear is around the money. I need the paycheck after transition. So I want to take away that fear.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's, in the planning well in advance is so important. And I think that, that gets missed by several people as they're transitioning. And I know there are some circumstances where you may get medically retired, or other circumstances where you're leaving much more unexpectedly than planned, and that's you just do what you got to do with those circumstances. Make the best of them. But for most people, when they transition, you've got to make that decision, even for the purpose of reenlistment, well in advance, at least a year out from when you'd be separating. So if you're making that decision, it's time to start. And there's so many areas that need planning and need focus, and it takes time to reflect and really, really truly understand what you're going to build for your future so you can be successful.
Yeah, and it's a simple drill I work with, use with people. I just say, think about, if we were having this conversation 3 years from today, and from that day, looking back to today, to this conversation, what needs to have happened for you to feel happy with your progress? It personally, professionally, whatever. And so just think, like, literally in this moment, what comes to mind? Are you still in the military? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, cool. What kind of career do you want? Now be intentional with what you want military career to be. Are we just, hoping my assignment officer is putting me in the right place or the right job duty? Or are you being more intentional with it? If you want to get the most out of your military career, don't let it happen for you. Just like with the transition, don't let life happen to you. Create it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'm really in tune with the word of, that you use is intentional, right? Everything we do has to be intentional. We have to intentionally do it, because the good things don't just fall in place. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of things you intentionally have to do in order for those great things to happen.
Right. And the only time we're intentional in the military is almost really when we're in that combat situation, like where nothing else matters. Otherwise, hey, training plan's organized, be here at 6 a.m. You really don't, you kind of know where you have to be. You don't have to think too much about it sometimes, and it almost backfires. I know that's why our military works so well.
Right. Yeah. But that structure's not there once you're out, right? And
no, it's gone fast.
All right. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. And as we're running out of time here, Scott, I wanted to give you an opportunity to let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you or learn more about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. We are still in the kind of launch phase. We do have our website up, of course. I've been in operation for almost 10 years now. I'm just relaunching the whole brand and stuff. But you can go to our website, BFinFit, Bravo Echo FinFit. And .com, and sign up for our newsletter right there, and you get all the new info. Make sure you can find us on Be Financially Fit on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the above. And hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn. So I think everybody should be connecting with other veterans as much as they can if they feel that person can help serve them.
All right. Well, great. Thank you again for being on the show. And most importantly, thank you for your service to our country.
Likewise, I want to thank you for all the great things you're doing with the Charlie Mike podcast. I love that this media outlet can reach so many. And I just want to encourage all listeners, get other veterans listening to podcasts. Doesn't have to be this one or the show I'll be launching here in a few months, hopefully, if I can knock out some other projects. but just recognize, like, listening to all the coolest tunes of the day isn't going to further you when there's free education that you can be listening to on your car ride that will change your life.
Remember, loyal listeners, we are the home of the free because of the brave.
Thank you for tuning in to Charlie Mike Podcast with Dwayne Paro. Our objective is to bring successful veteranpreneurs to help inspire and provide insight into what helped them become successful, with the hopes you can take away various strategies you can implement in your entrepreneurial journey. Visit us on iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and let us know what you thought of the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hoorah!